So we have two awesome guest speakers joining us, and we have Dr. Catherine Elliott and Sandy Murray from University of Tasmania presenting on the Healthy, Sustainable and Equitable Food Strategic Plan today. So Dr. Catherine Elliott is the Sustainability Manager, Experience and Engagement at UTAS, and she coordinates the Sustainability Integration Program for Students at UTAS, which is an award-winning program that creates opportunities for students to work on projects tackling real-world sustainability challenges. Catherine is also the facilitator of the Education for Sustainability Communities of Practice at the university, and she also loves mentoring students, seeing new projects come to life, and collaborating with others to make meaningful change. As for Sandy, Sandy is an academic, educator, and also a dietitian, and she works within the School of Health Science at the University of Tasmania, and she's also the facilitator of the UTAS Sustainable Food Systems Working Group. Sandy was acknowledged for her work in sustainable food systems by being awarded an Australasia Green Gowns Award for excellence in 2020. And she's presently undertaking a PhD exploring food justice, advocating for community participation and the empowerment of diverse voices in the quest for a more socially just food system. So I'm going to hand the stage over to these two amazing people, Catherine and Sandy.
Thank you very much, Shelley. We are both delighted to be here today to be able to present on how the university food environment has been changed and is changing within the context of the University of Tasmania. It is intentional that Sandy's name is first on our slides. It is an honour for me to be able to work with Sandy, and this is very much part of the research that she leads as part of her PhD. So today, Sandy and I are co-presenting on what has been happening within the university context, but we represent a much bigger group of staff and students at the university. And in particular, these staff come from a sustainability team where I am based, from food, health and nutrition in Sandy's area, from student life, student living, and also student association, TUSA as well. As the University of Tasmania, we are a regional university with campuses across the island in Hobart, Launceston and Burnie, as well as campus in Rozelle and Sydney as well. And we have staff based across Australia and many online students in other parts of Australia and the world too. So when we're talking about our university food environment, we're talking about a whole of island approach and reaching out to distant students and staff. So it's important to us that as we gather this morning, we begin by acknowledging country. And so I am sitting in Nipaluna, Hobart, and Sandy is in Kanamaluka in the north of the island. And together we pay our respects to the Palawa people who cared for our island country, the waterways, sky, land, and our living environment of people, plants and animals stretching back over 60,000 years. So it's really important that when we're acknowledging country, we're not only acknowledging the history, but we're acknowledging the living culture and knowledge that's here with us on island today. And as we talk about food systems, this is really important. So even this week, we have been looking at Tasmanian native plants, Tasmanian edible plants, and we came across research looking into the types of plants that people in Tasmania used to eat. And finding the language in some of that research, was highly critical of whether or not that food would actually be nutritious and provide enough calories in particular for people to live a healthy life. And it was good to look at research from the 1960s in Tasmania that showed very clearly that people were able to not only feed themselves but have a very healthy diet living here on the island. So what's important to us is that we're thinking about decolonising both our research and teaching and education as we work in a university environment and community. Within our approach to food environments on campus, it's important to us that we consider how both our students, staff and community members can bring their whole selves to university. And this includes our ability to grow, eat, share and prepare food together. And that food places are a part of education spaces. They're not something that you add on later, or they're not an extra bonus, that they're part of our university experience. So within the University of Tasmania, we're incredibly proud to have developed and launched a healthy, sustainable and equitable food strategic plan late last year. And this strategic plan guides our work for the next 5 years. It is heavily built on the participatory action research that Sandy has been leading with our university community of students and staff. And through that research, 9 priority areas were developed, and we're going to talk through each of those and what they mean. When you look at them on the screen, they might seem inevitable, but it's really important that they were developed through a process of participation and that the voices of students and staff were heard in the development of those 9 priority areas. So we took a whole of university approach involving people both who have a role and a stake in each of these areas, and also people who are interested and those that have teaching and research expertise as well. So as Shirley mentioned, I work within the sustainability team at the university, and our approach is to work with students as partners in shaping our university experience. So students have partnerships in sustainability projects just as much as staff and community members. And we look for meaningful opportunities for students to get involved in sustainability. We do this through offering paid internships, curricular credit for projects, and working with honours, masters and PhD candidates like Sandy. So today is a really good example of how this can be possible in having these effective partnerships between students and staff. So one of the areas that's important to us within sustainability is food and food systems. And Sandy has been working in this area for a very long period of time. So we can see that over 10 years ago, back in 2011, a lot of work was happening in our university community to bring academics and teaching research staff together to form the Education for Sustainability community of practice. And we were able at the time to create the Sustainability Committee, to form our SIPS program, which is the student program I just mentioned, and to become a member of Australasian Campuses Towards Sustainability. So this was a time of big growth in the area for our university community. And then more recently in 2019, emphasis on focus and concern for food systems on campus really grew, supported by that network of very active and interested sustainability staff members. So in 2019, with Sandy's work through her PhD, Sandy co-chaired the Sustainable Food Systems Working Group, many of whom are teaching and research academics. And this led to the participatory action research that Sandy has been leading, And there's elements of that that are both on and off campus. We then started to survey staff and students about food insecurity, and the first questions around this were in 2020, just prior to the COVID pandemic and lockdowns. We were really fortunate to take part in the first uni food tool pilot in 2020 as well, and that helped us with an initial assessment of our food environment. And we're going to talk through some of these steps in more detail on how they have helped us. And so this work led to the development of the Healthy, Sustainable and Equitable Food Strategic Plan, which we launched late last year. But as you can see, hasn't come out of nowhere, and that there's a considerable amount of work and support in the background for the strategic plan. So I hand over to now to Sandy.
Thanks very much, Catherine. And I just want to acknowledge Catherine, Corey Peterson, Jeff McClintock, who's online now, who's our Community Gardens Coordinator, and the whole sustainability team, because myself as an academic, working alongside my sustainability colleagues has just changed the way I teach. So since 2011, and particularly since 2019, everything I teach, everything I do is always with our sustainability team. So I can't do what I do without them. So my students, when they get me, they get the sustainability team as well. So I feel for me is a wonderful collaboration, and it's real, it's authentic, and it's not just out of a textbook. So thank you, Catherine. Thank you very much, Jeff, who's online as well. So moving on from what Catherine's just talked us through, so she's correct. So along our journey, we formed the 2019 the Sustainable Food Systems Working Group. And so it had four prongs to it. Research, and we started considering what the prevalences of food insecurity were among our students and later on staff. The campus food environment, and some of you may have heard Catherine and I speak previously, and we've talked about our involvement in the Deakin University's Uni Food Tool, our own student experience on campus, and curriculum. How do we get sustainable food systems into curriculum? So that big conversation started in 2019. So from then to where we are today has been that kind of long journey for us. Next slide, Catherine. Thank you. So then part of that journey, as Catherine mentioned, in 2020, I decided to start my PhD journey. And for me, I think it was this point in time for me, 2019, 2020, where COVID started to hit. I'd commenced my PhD, and it was a no-brainer for me to consider, well, okay, what's it going to take to feed our students and for our students to be part of this journey, and staff as well. So I undertook some participatory action research with our students and with our staff. So the vision during this time, and remember it was COVID, was to be able to create an environment for growing, cooking, buying, selling, sharing, redistributing and eating healthy, equitable, sustainable food that is safe, affordable, and easy to access for everyone. So that was our student and staff voice. That was not my voice. That was not our Vice Chancellor's voice. It was their voice. So that vision has underpinned the direction of our strategic plan around food. Thanks, Catherine. Next slide. So in terms of collecting data and trying to understand the prevalences of food insecurity, which was happening separately, but it was coincidental, then we started I started to undertake the participatory action research process with our students and staff. So in 2020, we included one question around food security in our biannual sustainability survey. And what we found was that 38% of our students identified as being food insecure. So that was just before COVID. 2 years on, in 2022, we used a 6-item food security questionnaire in our sustainability survey. And what we found was that 42% of our students identified as being food insecure, and for our staff, 17%. So both of those are extremely high. And so what we've done for our 2024 survey, which closed in April, is that we included, again, the same 6 questions, and we're still to finalise the data at this stage. So we'll certainly let you know as soon as that data is finalised. Next slide.
So we've been fortunate to participate in the Uni Food Tool twice, in 2020 and 2022. We have found that it is a really helpful process for us to be part of. Although our overall score only changed by 1 point from 2020 to 2022, that 1 point represents big changes for our university community. So within that time, things happen such as installing compost food organic bins in all of our tea rooms for staff, and changing packaging in retail outlets to either 100% compostable or 100% recyclable. What we really find useful about the Uni Food Tool is that it enables us to work with students to audit our campus food environment. So we work with teams of both health and nutrition and social work students who go out and audit our physical campus environment, as well as the communications and information that we have available on our website. And based on their audits, we get a score which helps us to identify and prioritise areas for us to work on. So based on the data collected in 2022, one of the key recommendations from the Uni Food Tool was around governance, and that recommendation was to prioritise the development of the sustainable food strategy. So we're really happy that that has happened and that we've been able to launch that. A second priority that was identified through the Uni Food Tool was around information provided at the site where food is sold or provided. So that's around both health, nutrition information, as well as dietary information around food labelling. And what we're discovering is that that is something that is an Australia-wide priority rather than just for the University of Tasmania. So we're really keen to talk with other universities about how this might be happening. So we're going to share with you a little bit more detail about the 9 priority areas that were identified and what they mean in practice for our university community.
Thanks, Catherine. So priority 1 is food security and social justice. And the reason it's number 1 was because it was very loud and very clear through the participatory action research process that students were struggling to put good food on the table, as were our staff as well. And so this priority emerged. And what became clear was through our Sustainable Food Systems Working Group, our relationship with TUSA, which is Tasmanian University Students Association, that relationship had really strengthened. And what evolved from that was our first food hub at Sandy Bay campus, which is our food social enterprise. So Sandy Bay is down in Hobart. So our first food social enterprise has emerged on campus for our students to access affordable food that is healthy and easy for the students to prepare and provide for themselves. Also, what has evolved from that is a breakfast club providing nutritious breakfasts for our students living on residence, as well as Sunday brunch for residents and soup days. So some healthy, nutritious soups, I think, on a Wednesday or Thursday, depending on what campus that you're on. So this priority, was very loud, very clear from the outset, following the participatory action research process. Thanks, Catherine. Priority 2, food systems, knowledge and skills. This was very clear as well. And again, it's at priority 2 because of just how loudly the voice of students and staff came out saying that they wanted to increase their skills around being able to grow, cook, then eat their own food. So my students, who are nutrition science students, we got together with Catherine and Jeff and the sustainability team, and we created the UTAS Foodies program, which is a student-led food skills and knowledge program. And we rolled out our first program. We had our pilot last year, and we rolled out the first proper version of the program this semester. So it went for 5 weeks, and it is about giving the students experience around eating their own foods. And so you can see in that top vision there, they're my students, and then the students in the bottom image are those who are our participants as well. And just sneaking there in the background is one of our local chefs who was providing knife skills training as well. Thanks, Catherine. Our third priority area, importantly, was embedding Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander knowledges, and that was particularly important in our education and in our curriculum as well. And myself as a non-Aboriginal person, I teach from colonisation through to where we are today, and I certainly cannot speak on behalf of my Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander colleagues around pre-colonisation and their food knowledges and practices. So it's about working with my colleagues around building their knowledges and practices into the curriculum that I teach. And the University of Tasmania also is starting to establish its own knowledge repository through our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander colleagues as well. Thanks, Catherine.
Okay, so we have Jeff on the line, who is our community garden coordinator. So with the first food security survey results, when we were first learning about the level of food insecurity amongst students in our community, one of the things that the university did to tackle food security was to create the role that Jeff has as our community garden coordinator, and also to grow the number of gardens that we have available for students on campus. So across the university, we're moving towards an edible campus plan, so connecting the food gardens that exist with each other, and being able to both grow more food, but also understand how we can equitably distribute the food to students who most need it as well, and ensuring that we're able to pass on gardening skills and education so students have the time to learn in the gardens, and being able to do this both across the island and for students in Rozelle as well. And so, as we mentioned, Jeff is our community garden coordinator, and our emphasis is on growing a network of campus community gardeners, student staff and community members who join our gardening bees as well. So our fifth priority is focused on food procurement, commercial and social enterprises. So it was really important to us that we established some other priorities before we started to talk about commercial buying and selling of food on campus. So this priority is around ensuring that the food that is bought and sold on campus aligns with the sustainable procurement guidelines, and that we are enabling both commercial and social enterprises to operate on campus, acknowledging the very different models there, and also looking at, because we are a regional campus and our buildings and facilities are spread out, what access students have to food between classes, and looking at vending machines and the type of food that's available to people in vending machines, either late at night or when they only have a 10 or 15-minute break between their classes. One of the learnings from our first food insecurity survey was around looking at the type of food that was provided on campus, and this led to the university changing our food environment model. So at the time, we transitioned away from having one very large national contractor who looked after all our campus cafes towards a model where we were supporting small catering contractors. And in order to move to this model, 8 priorities were developed, and these are intended to guide our decision making. And these focus first of all on supporting food that is grown locally near to our campuses in Tasmania, supporting small Tasmanian-owned businesses, and also our focus on the type of packaging that we're providing through the cafes, making sure that it's either 100% compostable or 100% recyclable as well. So the second part of the physical food environment, as well as buying and selling food, our next priority is around facilities and services.
Thanks, Catherine. So I'll tell a little story to illustrate this particular priority, which again came out of the participatory action research. Many of our students live distances from the university. If they don't live on campus, it's really hard to live quite close to some of the to the campus, particularly down in Hobart. It's quite expensive, and so students travel long distances. So for many of our students, they may have one big meal in the morning, breakfast, before they come to university. Then they don't eat all day, and then they wait till they get home in the evening because it's just too expensive to buy on campus through some of the business enterprises. So what some students were saying is it would be really great if we could actually provide campus community kitchens where students could self-cater more efficiently for themselves if they are travelling long distances, so they can heat their food, cook their meals, if that was possible. So into our plan, we've included self-catering facilities to be established over time, as well as communal tea rooms as well. And these types of things do exist already, but expanding what we do already is really important, and not putting them in tuck-away areas where it takes half an hour to get to it by walking. Making it really central to where all of their lectures and tutorials are is actually really important. So communal catering bling, I guess is what I call it, making sure it's all part of the same area. So it's not hidden away, and it's part of university culture, really. Thanks, Catherine.
It's okay. And I think this is also about just making sure that there are places for people to heat their lunch and have hot water, not just for staff tea room areas, but student tea room areas as well.
Our seventh priority is around community engagement, support and partnership. So again, our students and staff were very clear on that we can't be just the university with our borders and not engage with community. And, many staff and students already do. So just formalising that process where we've got this community campus partnership approach to everything that we do. And one example here is the Tasmanian Food Security Coalition, which is a coalition of around 9 food non-government organisations. So University of Tasmania is a partner within that coalition to support the activities of the coalition. For example, supporting the conversations that are being had with the Tasmanian government, particularly around the release of their recent food relief to resilience food strategic, not strategic plan, that's ours, the food relief to resilience food security strategy by the Tasmanian government. And also importantly, having partnerships with our research agricultural unit within the university, Tasmanian Institute of Agriculture, and linking the activities of TIA with internal and external partners as well is really crucial, particularly within that food space. Thanks, Catherine. Number 8 is our priority area around data information and knowledge translation. And so I guess now you realise we have been tracking our food insecurity prevalences 2020, 2022, and now 2024. So it's important not only to collect this data, but also making sure that we disseminate the information as well, whether it's good or whether it's bad news. It needs to be disseminated. And then also as well, making sure whilst we've got the information, we need to now translate that into action as well. So through data, whether it's data collection, whether it's qualitative or quantitative, it's about sharing that. If we've got some challenges, making sure we partner with our external and internal partners to make sure that we're moving forward on resolving any challenges that might be coming up now or into the foreseeable future. Thanks, Catherine.
And our final priority speaks to our first priority because it's about leadership, participation and change making. And this is very much about ensuring that all our stakeholders have a voice in ongoing both the strategic plan and ongoing food security programs within our university. So the first element of this is to make sure that the Sustainable Food Systems Working Group was a formal working group of our Sustainability Committee, and that ensures that people who have roles with responsibilities relating to food environments on campus, both with our student-facing roles, teaching and research, and operations, that all of those roles are holistically part of our Food Systems Working Group, and that they have active responsibility for ensuring that the plan is implemented. And secondly, making sure that we're supporting student groups across the university so that they have a sustainable and easy and transparent way to participate in the plan, and that this is part of our ongoing operations, that students have a voice within these meetings and can tell us what the experience is like on campus as students as well. And so finally, we have some key lessons that we've learned through this process to share with you. Sandy, do you want to share first?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I always love this, find your voice. And I don't think I really realised I had a voice until that counted, until I came to Tasmania. So Tasmania does that to you when you move down here. And I came down here in 2005, but it wasn't until 2011 when we established the Education for Sustainability Community of Practice when I realised, okay, my voice really does matter. And in a collective, we can make things happen. So it's about finding your allies. And for me, if I hadn't have found my sustainability crew, Jeff, Catherine, Corey and Carmen and all my other sustainability gurus, it would have been a lonely journey. So finding your allies is really crucial. And I think for me, the third one here is numbers count. And what I mean by that is, particularly with the food insecurity prevalence data among our staff and our students, without those numbers, it's hard to tell the story. And for me, qualitative data and people's stories really count. But without those numbers, that quantitative information, sometimes those in power don't realise the extent of the issues. So for us, numbers really, really counted. Catherine, do you want to add to that or add to any of these lessons learned?
I think the next one is intentional because we work in a university environment. It is really important to have research partners. So we work not only with Sandy, but some of her colleagues in order to analyse the data that we get from our surveys. This is really important to ensuring that we're making decisions that are based on research. There are oftentimes within the university that sometimes surveys happen or other data is collected without that research background. And that may mean that you're making decisions that don't have the right information to help you make the decision. So for us, it is really important that we have academic partners like Sandy that we're able to work with to make sure that there is that quality research in the background. And a key part of Sandy and I working together is the Student Foodies program and making sure that students have those real life experiences on campus and that they're part of our food education and our food environment as well.
And Catherine, I've heard from some of our students, I call them our students, because it's the most fun part of the semester for the students when they do some real life projects. So it's not just a textbook, it's real life. So thank you. In front of everyone, thank you.
That's good. And these both those students and staff, they're our biggest supporters. So it's really important to be able to capture that momentum and that enthusiasm for what's happening as well. Yeah. We have some
rally the troops, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have some resources that you're very welcome to. So our strategy and plan and our principles are all public. And then we'd just like to thank you very much for your time and just acknowledge that we're presenting on behalf of a much bigger group within our university community and thank them for all their work as well.